Welcome back to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues daily until the complete revelation of Mashiach ben David, Messiah, the son of David. May it be soon in our day. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. Today we'll be looking at Tractate Chullin, page 110. And before I start, I'd like to mention that I recently signed up with Buy Me a Coffee. And if you like this, if you feel that this is a benefit to you and it's valuable to you, please consider supporting my work at Buy Me a Coffee. My name there is Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, and Buy Me a Coffee. And I would greatly appreciate your support, your patronage, whatever you can do. Everything helps. And with that, let us proceed to the daily daf of Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur. We left off, it was the middle of something, so we'll start on the bottom of 109b, where the subject was something that is, one might call, utterly interesting. It's a little bit of a pun on the subject because it's talking literally about udders. And whether an udder is in its milk, or if one cooked an udder, or if it's the milk inside an udder of a cow, is it considered milk, or is it not? Anyway, the very bottom, the very bottom of 109b, the Gemara was asking, the Hakatani Shibishule di Avad in the Chitchila law, who I didn't feel the Chatchila Vadi the Kabaya the Misti Sefer Keva. I'll continue on to the next, but I'll translate this first. Read the translation first. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in the Brayta cited above an udder that when cooked in its milk is permitted? This indicates that after the fact, yes, it is permitted, but one may not roast it ab initio, which means the chatchila means like to start off with, without tearing it. The Gemara answers the same is true even of roasting ab initio, meaning that it is permitted, and the Talmud of the Brayta uses this language since he wants to teach in the latter clause a stomach. That's keva. And now we turn to our daily page, which is Chullin 110. A on the top, Shebishla b'chaleva asura, defilu diavad namila, tanina min reisha shebishilo, of a suckling, the stomach of a suckling lamb, or a calf that one cooked together with the milk it contains is prohibited there, even if one roasted it, he may not eat it after the fact to preserve symmetry. The Tana of the Brayta taught in the first clause in this manner as well, stating an udder that one cooked in its milk is permitted. Okay, Kisa Rabbi Elazar Shechel Zeiri. Amalei katana de'asnei lerav kachal achavir Rav Yitzchak baravudimi Amalei ani lo shaniti lo kechal kol ikar verav bik'a matzah v'gadar ba v'gader. The Gemara above cited a second version of Rav's opinion, according to which an udder that was roasted without being torn is prohibited for consumption. The Gemara relates, when Rabbi Elazar ascended from Babylonia to Eretz Yisrael, he found Zeiri and said to him, is there a Tana who taught Rav? Is there a Tana who taught Rav that an udder roasted without first being torn is prohibited? Zeiri showed him Rav Yitzchak bar Avudimi. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avudimi said to Rabbi Elazar, I did not teach Rav that an udder is prohibited at all. Rather, Rav found an unguarded valley and fenced it in. Rav taught this stringent ruling as an additional safeguard in Babylonia, where Jews were not careful about the prohibition of meat cooked in milk. Derav ikla litat lefush. Tat lefush. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen it before. This might be a first time in all of Shas. I'm not saying I learned every daf, but could very well be. I don't remember tat lefush. Do you? Derav ikra le tat lefush. Shama lahi yitita de kamera chavirta. Riba ad visra. Kama chalav boy le bishulae. Amar lo gibiri de b'chal b'chalav asu. I akav gekasa asale kachle. When Rav arrived in Tatlefush, he heard a certain woman saying to another, "How much milk does it require to cook a quarter weight of meat?" Rav said, "Evidently, these people are not learned enough in halacha to know that meat cooked in milk is prohibited." Rav tarried in that place and prohibited even udders to them, so that they would not come to violate the prohibition of meat cooked in milk. Rav Kahana Masni Hochi Rabbi Yossi Baraba Masni Anakichala Shel Menika Shaniti Lo Umi Pilpulo Shel Rav Chia Shanale Kechol Stam. Rav Kahana teaches that Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avudimi applied to Rabbi Lazar, that in that manner described above. By contrast, Rabbi Yossi bar Abba teaches that Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avudimi said, "I taught Rav only that the udder of the animal nursing offspring is prohibited, and its udder contains much milk." And due to the sharp mind of Rav Chia, Rav's teacher, he assumed that Rav too would understand this without his saying so explicitly. Therefore, he taught this halacha to Rav with regard to an unspecified udder. It was utterly unspecified. Rav mistakenly thought that the ruling applies to all animals. Rabin Yitzchak bar Yosef iklul lebei Rav Papi aiso lekamay desav shilagi kachol dikachal. Kachal, I think, is an udder. Yeah. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef achal Ravin ochal amar bai Ravin tikra amai lo achal mechdi tibetu Rav Papi bar Rabbi Yitzchak nafcha havai Rabbi Yitzchak nafcha mrei Yehoshua dahava ilav de shamia le mi ben asala have. The Gemara relates that Ravin and Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef arrived at the house of Rav Papi. The servants brought before them a dish made of udder. Did they have it with butter? I don't know. Rabbi Yitzchak must not, right? Because it's meat. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef ate of it, but Ravin did not eat. Abaye said, bereaved Ravin, "Why do you not eat? After all, Rav Papi's wife is the daughter of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha was a master of good deeds, who was meticulous in his performance of mitzvot. Had Rav Papi's wife not heard in her father's house that such a dish is permitted, she would not have made it." Interesting. You get a little, the culture back then, like in Surah, this place, they ate the udder. In Pumbedita, they didn't eat it. That's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says that in Surah, they would not eat udders at all. Even torn and roasted. But in Pumbedita, they would eat udders. Rami bar Tamri Dehu Rami bar Dikoli Mi Pumbedita Igral Zomare Yoma Likipere Abekinu Kuli Almam Likachlinu Lishadinu Azal Ihu Naktinu Achilnu. The Gemara relates in Surah they would not eat udders at all, even torn and roasted, but in Pumbedita they would eat udders. Rami bar Tamri, who is also called Rami bar Dikuli, from Pumbedita, arrived in Surah on the eve of Yom Kippur. Since it is a mitzvah to eat and drink then, large quantities of meat were cooked, and everyone brought out their udders. It was an udder feast, and Everyone brought out their udders from the animals they had slaughtered and threw them away. Rami bar Tamri went and gathered the udders, roasted them, and ate them in accordance with his custom. I saw the Kamei de Rabbi Chizda, Amarei Ma'ai Tabirachi, Amarei Ma'asra, de Rabbi Huda, Ana, de Achil, Amarle, Veleslach, no Isnin Olov, Chumrei Hamakom, Shiatza Misham, Chumrei Hamakom, Shalach Lisham, Amarle, Chutz Latchum, Achal Tinuhu. The residents of Surah brought Rami bar Tamri before Rabbi Chizda, who said to him, "Why did you do this?" Rami bar Tamri said to Rabbi Chizda, "Am I from the place of Rabbi Yehuda who eats udders? And this is the accepted custom, Pumpadita." Rabbi Chizda, I am from the place of Rabbi Yehuda who eats udders, and this is accepted custom in Pumpadita. Rabbi Chizda said to him, And do you not hold by the principle that the sages impose upon a traveler the stringencies of the place that he left, and also the stringencies of the place to which he went? You should have accepted the stringency of Surah and not listened, and not even eaten the udders. Rami bar, you should have utterly rejected it. You should have accepted the stringency. You should have utterly rejected it. Rami bar Tamri said to Rav Chizda, that principle applies only to one who remains in the place he is visiting, but ate the others outside the boundaries of Surah. U'mativitinu amalei befurzane vedilma miyenesech havyahavo amalei le'achar Rav Chizda further asked Rami bar Tamri, and with what did you roast the udders? Rami bar Tamri said to him, I roasted them with grape seeds. Purtzene. I found in the vines there. Rav Chizda objected, but how could you roast the udders with grape seeds? As perhaps they were from wine used for libation to idolatry, from which is prohibited to derive benefit. Rami bar Tamri said to him, these were old seeds that still lay there after 12 months and had passed since the grapes were used, and any prohibition had expired, as by that point they are assumed to have lost any prohibited liquid that previously remained inside. See Avodah Zarah 34a. V'dilma digozel hava Amar le Yehush bailim havo di kadachu behu chilfe. Rav Chizda further objected, but perhaps these seeds were from stolen property, meaning they belonged to someone, and it was permitted for you to take them. Rami bar Tamri said to him, even so, in this case there was certainly despair of the owners of recovering them, as grass was growing among them, since the owners had allowed them to lie there for so long. They had clearly given up all the hope of retrieving them. Chazia de lo havi menach tefillin amalei. My time ele la minach tefillin. Amalei choli me'ayin hu. Amar Rav Yehuda choli me'ayin patur min tefillin. Rav Chizda saw that Rami bar Tamri had not donned phylacteries. He didn't put on tefillin. He said to him, what is the reason that you have not donned phylacteries? Rami bar Tamri said to him, meaning, I am suffering from intestinal illness. And Rabbi Yehuda said that one who has intestinal illness is exempt from the mitzvah of phylacteries, which require a clean body, because he would have to remove them constantly to defecate. Next, see. Let's continue. My time is less lachute. Rav Chizda further saw that Rami bar Tamri had not placed the threads of ritual fringes on his garment, and said to him, what is the reason that you do not have the threads of ritual fringes? Rami bar Tamri said to him, it is a borrowed robe, and Rabbi Yehuda said, now we turn to 110b, top of the page, with the words talit, she'ula kol shloshim yoim, petura ben atzitzis. With regard to a borrowed robe, during all the first 30 days that one borrows it, one is exempt from performing the mitzvah of ritual fringes with it. Adahachi. Aisu lehu gavra de lo havimokau avu yamime kaptu. Meanwhile, Rav Chizda and Rami Bar Tamri were talking. The attendants brought in a certain man to Rav Chizda's court who would not honor his father and mother. And they tied him to a pillar in order to flog him. It's mamish like our parsha, the Ben Soramora. A certain man, Ben Soramora. Parshas Kiseitze ganze. Amar lahu shivku detanya kol mitzvah taseh shematan schal b'tzidam. Ein bezin shelmata muzan aleha maleh chazir lach dicharift fat tuva. Amar le yavu yaseh the Rav Yehuda achbina lachur pai. Rami Bar Tamri said to them, "Leave him alone, since it is, as it is taught in the Brayta, with regard to any positive mitzvah, the reward is stated alongside it in the Torah. The earthly court below is not warned to enforce it through punishments such as flogging, and it is stated after the mitzvah of honoring one's father and mother that your days may be long and that it go well with you." Deuteronomy 5:16. Rav Chizda said to Rami Bar Tamri, "I see that you are very sharp." Rami Bar Tamri said to Rav Chizda, "If you were in the place where Yehuda resides, I would be able to show you my sharpness of mind far better than here." Amar le Abai le Rav Safra ki salaktasem by minayu kavda ma atun be ki salakashkache le Rav Zrika amar le anashelaki le Ravami viacha. Pursuant to the discussion of different customs, Abai said to Rav Safra, "When you ascend there, meaning to Eretz Yisrael, ask the sages there, with regard to liver, how do you treat it?" When Rav Safra ascended to Eretz Yisrael, he found Rav Zrika and asked him this question. Rav Zrika said to him, "I cooked liver for Rabbi Ami, and he ate it." When Rav Safra returned to Babylonia and came before Abai and reported what Rav Zrika had said, Abai said to him, "I do not raise the dilemma as to whether liver renders itself prohibited if cooked alone. It is clear to me that the blood that diffuses out of the liver is not absorbed again while it cooks. When I raise the dilemma, it is with regard to whether liver renders prohibited another piece of meat cooked with it. Rav Zrika's statement, therefore, has no bearing on my question. Maishna lemesar nafsha de la mibaya lach. Itna neno neseres. Lemesar chaver tanami lo tibaya lach. Itna nekavi neseres vena neseres. Ven shipoletes vena balaas. Amale dilmas mechavde disura. So Rav Safra said to Abai, "What is different about the issue of liver rendering itself prohibited, that you did not raise the dilemma with regard to this case?" It is presumably because the answer is obvious to you. As we learned in the Mishnah in Trumot 10:11, that liver is not rendered prohibited by its own cooking. But if so, you should not raise the dilemma with regard to whether it renders the other piece of meat prohibited either. As we learned in that same Mishnah, liver renders food cooked with it in the same pot prohibited, but it is not prohibited itself, because while it does expel blood as it cooks, it does not absorb this blood again, since the blood diffuses only outward. Abai said to Rav Safra, "That Mishnah does not answer my question, as perhaps there it is referring to specifically to forbidden liver, for example, the liver of a non-kosher animal."